So we're going to do a few reminders today, and then we're going to go ahead and go over the senior living upgrades that were done last week. They didn't do a whole lot of upgrades, but we have an exciting one for Missouri. So we'll go over that. And just a reminder, does everybody make sure you know your EMR offline, which computer it's on, what it's for. Make sure that EMR offline book is next to your EMR offline computer so that if you're off, somebody has the information on where to go and how to log in with that username into that computer. Everyone is set up with a generic login as I think Madonna's is Nurse 1 or something, or ROH is Humboldt's ROH Nurse, and then login is BHS 123, but we log in with the generic user on your computer, and then you'll see the EMR offline, and you should have a username and password for that. We do need to verify that it's updating at least monthly, and I don't know where you're going to put that. You could put it in your EMR offline book that it was checked if you want to make a checkoff list, or if you want it in your survey prep book as part of your emergency planning. However you want to do it is fine, just as long as we have it somewhere, because that is part of our emergency planning. Any questions on EMR offline? Okay. Just want to go over a little bit about maximizing reimbursement. It's always a hot topic of the day. I get a lot of calls on that, and I just think, you know, some good pointers are talking to your staff before you go do that visit with your resident, before that 90-day or whatever visit it is. Talk to your housekeepers, tell everybody who you're having to do that week in morning stand up, because things might come later to their mind, like, oh yeah, I did do this with this resident, I should let you know that. Whether it's activity people, office people, they spend a lot of time with our residents. So you want to take all that information and try and find it somewhere into that assessment where it makes sense. So if they're doing extra laundry and she wants it done 4 loads a week, we can go ahead and use that other laundry question and gather more points for that. Don't be afraid to reach out if you just can't figure out, like, I know I should have points for this, I just don't know where it should go. Go ahead and reach out. I'll help you find a place to maximize that documentation. I think it's important, oh, hang on, okay. I think it's important that we don't have everything in the EMR and in the service plan. TEDSOCs don't need to be in your orders. They need to be in the service plan where you get points. So really looking at your orders every month, and if you have cares in there, you need to take them out and you need to make sure they are all in that service plan. That's where cares belong. That's what our aides need to use, not the EMR. Just making sure that you're looking at points as, you know, a point is about a minute of time. So if you have a 20-minute service and you know it's taking them 45 minutes and it's a white box, we can change that time in that box and make it accurate for that resident. That's the purpose of it. And then I would just explain that in my notes to the aides, like, this is your time. You have 45 minutes. I'm allotting you with this time, because if you change those points, what happens if they're accurate? The time that your aides are spending every day is also increasing to the accuracy, which is going to help you with your staffing plan. So everything does come full circle. It's all interconnected. And we just need to think about it as we're doing these service plans. One thing I do notice is that when I'm doing audits, I find things like someone who has an indwelling Foley, they feel like they have to toilet them every 2 hours. It's kind of like a skilled nursing home, every 2 hour toileting. Well, if they have a Foley catheter, they certainly probably are not using the toilet, but to have a BM, and maybe that's once a day, probably not every 2 hours. So, you know, thinking for them, I'm not going to overcharge the residents either. So if I'm doing safety checks, other than the one free housing check that most of our communities have, we have a couple exceptions. But if I'm doing safety checks, I'm certainly not going to charge them a safety check if I'm already in there doing a med pass. That's not the intention of a safety check. The safety check is something that you haven't seen the resident for a while, and we just want to put eyes on them to make sure that they're safe. Those should be scheduled away from other services. If you are transferring someone with 2 staff and you're capturing points for that, that's great. But maybe that person isn't staying in that bath for the whole bath. So then I would just get the 2-person transfer assistance in the thing and only take the 1-person bathing assistance. Sometimes we do need 2 people to do all the bathing because they just have a lot of behaviors, and you need 1 person to divert attention and the other person does the washing, or they just can't move too much. So you need 2 people to move the limbs. Just kind of to think about, you know, how points work. If a service is 30 minutes and it's a weekly service, you divide that by 7, and that gives you your average daily points, because the billing is averaging everything by per day. So if it's a monthly service, a nurse goes in there once a month to do a B12 injection and you're charging 30 minutes, that accumulates to 1 point then, because it's 30 points divided by 30 days on average. So that's kind of how we calculate that. I do see in the question where you have to calculate the medication administration times. You'll see that there's daily med passes, but then right here, you'll see, then you see weekly med passes. And that's not for you to say, okay, if they have 3 med passes a day at 30 points, I'm not going to go in here and go, but that's 21 a week and add another 21 points. That weekly med pass is only for things that are away from the other med passes, like a Fosamax. So at 6 a.m. on a Saturday, I have to get Fosamax. I want to get points for that med pass because they're not giving that med pass with the other meds, of course, because you can't. I have to give it away. So I need to capture that med pass once a week, and it's 2 points for when it's once a week. So that's why you see that weekly med pass. Or maybe, you know, under the AccuChecks, maybe it's just an AccuCheck Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So now I'm going to take, you know, the 6 points for that. So it's just some things to be aware of. Anyone else have anything like they find that they're having trouble scheduling, or you want to talk about why points are set up the way they are? Or...
Linda, this is Diane. I have a question.
Sure.
Actually, I have a couple of tenants in their family, and the one I struggle with a private pay. Both in both circumstances, they want to keep it at a level 1. Yet they are asking for so much care. So what we're doing is charging, like every time we bring them to the bathroom, we're charging a la carte.
We don't do that though. If they need toileting, then put them in that package. You know, the 0 to 3 times, the 6 to 9, 12, and then the 12 plus.
Okay, in the one circumstance, I mean, what they decided they wanted changed on the day of admission. I'm telling you, the day before they wanted something, the day of admission, they changed everything. They just won't do it. And so then they get upset because the price is so high for what we're charging to take her. They decided that she has to ask to go to the bathroom each time. And then the other one is suddenly she just can't get off of the toilet. So they're surprised at how many times we're going in there to help her. I cannot get them to agree to another level. I've talked about the importance of, I've done so much educating the importance of a scheduled toileting program, you know, and they just will, they won't do it. I've gone to the administrator, I've gone to the LULT. I cannot get these guys to.
So Diane, I
increase
think
that
it's
level.
okay. I hear what you're saying, and I think it's okay that you charge them each time. So they're on they're not on a scheduled service for toileting. And the aides are gonna document that under the task as an extra service every time they toilet her.
Correct.
Perfect. What they're gonna find in the long run is as you do that, and you can then use your ammunition when you go do another, evaluation, say it would have been cheaper had you just been put in this package, because now I'm gonna charge you every single time. When you could have had the package for up to 3 times, it was only 30 points and it would have saved you money.
Yes, and I am working with them. They're
Yeah.
wonderful families and they're caring. I kind of think it's the dollar. And
It's
I
always
think
a dollar, but it's
that-
okay. Stand your ground and bill what you should bill for the care, because I can't go anywhere else and pay what you're paying at Summit. I guarantee you.
Yes, and then like they're fine, the caregivers are getting so good at charging for every extra task. And
Good.
I think I told the one, I said, I believe that we're doing double what you're being charged and it's going to show the next month. So, okay, I'll keep working on them and.
Yeah. They're
it's
always
just-
gonna fight you because they're gonna go on your graces of being a kind person because you're a nurse, and they're gonna assume that you're gonna take their bill off. But if you go to the doctor's office and they do a bunch of tests, you're going to pay for those tests, aren't you?
Correct.
Right.
Yes, yes.
I mean, it's just the
Yeah.
way it is. Nobody likes to pay medical bills, but we all have to do it.
Right, right. So, okay, I'll keep trying.
And if they want to come in and toilet their mother, or if they want to hire a private caregiver, they sure can. But I mean, that's their options. She needs help. That's why you can always say, that's why they live here, because they need the help.
Exactly. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's hard though. I know it's hard because they play on our emotions. Anyone else? Thanks, Diane. Okay, well, we had the IDM integration, and hopefully if you haven't signed up, you need to sign up for a class. It's a whole new way of setting up users. It's a little bit simpler. We're no longer single sign-on. I hope you guys got all that information and that you posted it around your building. So the sign-on looks different now. It's just one place to log in, less confusing. It didn't go as smooth as we expected. We were told that we would have no downtime on Matrix. We were told it wouldn't affect people's logins, and I know I've seen the tickets. So I was on vacation and everyone struggled the last week. So thank you for your patience. I do know Matrix is timing out a lot faster than it used to. We're working on that. So more to come on that. You don't need to put any clinical tickets in. We're pretty aware of it. And hopefully we'll get that increased by the end of this week. So if you haven't signed up for a class on how to set up a user, you need to. I believe Megan might have missed sending it out to the ALDONs and housing. I tried to forward that, but reach out. Megan Cornish is her name. She's doing all the training for the IDM. So that would be great. And now into the fun stuff. We got new release out for senior living and care assist. The release for the skilled side did not happen, so that got pushed off. So we're just going to go ahead and talk about senior living. When you now access your scheduling assistant through your residence evaluation or modifying a service plan, under your work list now, you'll see that there's a little asterisk and it'll tell you which work group that your person is in. So if I pulled up Barry Gareth, you'll see here, unit 2 under the work list, that's who Barry is under. So it kind of gives you an idea what work list I want to look at if you can't remember what work list they're on. It's a nice little feature that they added to that scheduling assistant. Has anyone seen that yet? It's been out about 5 days. I can pull it up if anyone wants to see it too. And then for our Missouri folks, we now have a new report for them. Oh, someone's chatting. I have dabbled. Yeah, it's kind of nice what they're doing with the scheduler. I don't know if anyone's on from Missouri. I don't think so. So I'll briefly go through this. This is like the Minnesota roster, but this is for Missouri. So that just came out. I'm in the process of testing that right now. And then on the Minnesota roster, when I'm going through and I'm doing your mock surveys, the new roster that was updated, you have to go and find that start of service date for your resident. You have to fill this in. So if you look under your service or under your evaluations, you can filter for initial, and that will tell you when we started services. If they've been there a long time, I would just use their admit date. But you do have to correct this. Under question number 1, I see everyone picking yes to number 1, but that is really for your independent people that are not on services. So those that are declining services. We shouldn't have a whole lot of them in most of your buildings. That would be the only time you wouldn't have to select 2, 3, and 4. So we should only see 1 checked yes if they're independent. Otherwise, everyone should be no. If we're doing an evaluation, that's the only time we'll really be doing the roster. So pretty much all you people should be no unless they were on services and they're coming off. Then you want to update the roster and pick yes. So if they were an IL resident on services, like at Madonna Towers, and now they're off, I have to update my roster and put yes now here and make sure these are all blank. And we also have the discharge roster is active now. So please, instead of the paper discharge roster, we really want to make sure that we are doing this one so we can pull that report for 6 months. It's also going to ask you about your med reconciliation. And what we found out as we're doing, let me see if I have it down here. As we're doing our MedSafe communities, we were taught when MedSafe came about that we didn't have to document any meds going into MedSafe, and we didn't have to document when we destroyed them, but that is not true for assisted living, especially Minnesota. We have to document all meds, whether they're going out of the building to another facility, whether they're going into MedSafe, whether they're going into the RX destroyer. You have to account for everything coming in and going out. So if you don't have a log going for everything you're putting in MedSafe, let me know if you need a log sheet. I will get you one, but we do have to have that. If you are transferring a resident to another location and sending their medications, then I would print off their MD orders out of the Elite side, and I would write everything on there after each med, the RX number, how many pills, and then at the very bottom, whoever you gave it to should sign that they accepted them. And then you sign and you keep the original and they can have a copy, and we should upload that into our document management under discharge. Oh, I see a question. Yep, Diane, I will send that to you. Yes, we do have to document all meds destroyed. So That was a little, I wasn't involved when they did MedSafe, and I probably should have sat in on that, and we probably would have caught it a little bit earlier, and I didn't realize that MedSafe said you don't have to, but yes, we do in AL. And just going over the falls again and senior living, there's a nice workflow. I have a nice checklist if you would like it. But we keep getting a lot of questions. So when a resident falls and the aides respond, they can fill out the paper incident report. And then the nurse will put all that information into the fall form in senior living. And then do a clinical note. And then if you need to visit them again because of the fall and they had an injury, so maybe now I just want to check them one more time, or I have to do wound care because of it, I would then document that too. And then I could set up a fall visit after. We could set up protocols through the scheduler. We can talk about that. We're looking at putting simple neurals into a order set for AL falls with them hitting their head. So a lot of stuff happening right now with falls. But you also have to do a ROMP. So a ROMP is a corporate notification. It's not the clinical charting, and that's where we're finding a lot of controversy. If I pull all your ROMPs, I do not see all the fall forms that would correspond with your ROMPs. It's very important that they match. That's part of my audit when I'm there. Are there any questions about falls or maybe things you'd like to see a little different? Jamie, is that for the gardens only or both? Okay. Perfect. All right. Now, if that fall results in a change of services, then you can open up the evaluation as a change of condition and then go into all those areas that you should be going into. Especially the vulnerability areas, because that's what the health department will be focusing on during your surveys. So they're really focused on the VA areas. Short-term changes that you need for a fall, you can determine that through your new fall report. And if you just need like a safety check for 3 days, we can certainly add that through the scheduler without you having to do a whole new evaluation. But then you also have the documentation that it was done. Along with falls, we are not really seeing medication errors being documented. And so just to review, what is a medication error? Well, it's if you didn't give the med, so you have an omission, or they didn't chart it, that's technically a med error that you might have proof on your med card that they gave it, but you don't have documentation on the EMR, that's a med error. If it's the wrong drug, wrong dose, wrong time, wrong person, they didn't shake the med, they didn't crush the med, or they crushed it and it's a no crush med. Those are all medication errors, and we need to document it. We need to do a clinical note that this occurred. You called the doctor, there were no ill effects. But we also need to do a ROMP. And this is going to be really important because starting in April, we have to do mandatory reporting to the Minnesota Department of Health. We have to now track med errors, falls. There are 4 things on that. But this is one place we do have to improve on, because a lot of times what we're seeing is the nurses just correct the error, but we don't document the error. But we need to document it in the clinical note and we need to document it in ROMP. So there's lots of different times we have to do ROMPs. Does anyone have questions on med errors? Okay. Do we all think we do a good job on med errors? I think that's one of our areas that we can greatly improve on. I don't see anyone from Missouri on. I was gonna go through their new form. Anything you guys want to go over, anything you want to share? I know Northfield's not on right now because they are actively in survey, so everybody, you know, send them a prayer. I wish I could help you with that, Megan. Megan said if we had a better pharmacy that delivered meds timely, but I was talking more along the lines of anything with Matrix. Any upgrades you'd like to see with Matrix? Anything not working well besides this whole IDM stuff? So I can give you back your 30 minutes today. This is recorded and I will send it out where the recording goes. Our next meeting is until March 21st. You'll notice I changed it to every other month. So we can, you can start thinking about things and making a little Linda list if you want, and go from there. So I will stop the recording.